Well, thank you guys so much for joining our Zoom workshop today on using reactions and polls to get students to participate in Zoom. My name is Ashley Linscott. I'm a courseware representative here at Hawks Learning, and we're really excited to have Leah Rosenberry at Penn State University joining us today. Professor Rosenberry is an IT training specialist and Penn State's lead Zoom trainer. She was instrumental in the university's move to remote teaching for COVID-19 and is a continuous part to supporting faculty and staff to use Zoom effectively so that virtual courses and meetings are not only a viable option for the university, but also sometimes even a superior alternative to face-to-face. So prior to working at Penn State, Professor Rosenberry taught college-level mathematics and statistics for 20 years in face-to-face, hybrid, and online formats. And with over 16 years of online education, she has experience in curriculum development, creating online content, training and mentoring new instructors, as well as writing and facilitating online courses. So this webinar today is being recorded because we'll go over a ton of information. And we will make sure to share this recording with everybody at the end of the session once it's processed and ready to go. But audience, be prepared for a really interactive session. And on that note, I'll hand it over to our presenter.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Welcome, everybody. We are going to talk about reactions, and they used to be called nonverbal feedback icons, so you might have heard that term too, and then also polls to get students to kind of interact, and you'll know they're out there. And so sometimes when we're presenting and we're used to seeing like faces in a classroom, but it's happening in a distance and you don't know if they're paying attention. Even those tiny little interactions make a big difference and kind of know that, let you know that they're with you and things like that. So I love to use those things. We will start just kind of by talking about what the difference is and things like that. And then we'll actually go into the nuts and bolts, show you how to use them, give you some good strategies and things like that. So nonverbal feedback icons and reactions. It used to be that we had reactions. There was a reactions button at the bottom of the Zoom window that had a happy or a clapping emoji, a laughing with crying tears of joy emoji, a party popper, some things like that. And then separate to that were the nonverbal feedback icons that were at the bottom of your participants panel. And that would have a raised hand, a yes, a no, a go slower, a go faster, and some things like that. Zoom has combined those two things and put them all on the reactions button at the bottom of the Zoom window. So we're going to talk about that. Those are really good to use for quick feedback, just if you want to make sure everybody's with you. Maybe you take a quick break, you know, in the middle of class, a 5-minute break or something. Give me a green check when you get back so you kind of know when people are back, that kind of thing. Polling is another feature. I love polling. We can use polls for, you know, asking all kinds of questions and things like that. I feel like that's like a little bit more formal as far as feedback goes. You can actually download poll reports to see what people said after the fact. And we'll show you how to do that. We'll show you how to create a poll, how to launch it, what all that looks like. We'll show you how to pull a poll report. We have instructors who use polling for attendance even, like at different points in the class, they'll launch a poll. And then if students are paying attention, theoretically, they're going to answer. And so that way to kind of just gauge and make sure that everybody's focused and kind of where they should be. So that's what we'll do. And again, quicker on the fly reactions and nonverbal feedbacks. Kind of more formal would be the polling, but they both really do accomplish the same things. Just depends on your use case. Before we can use either of those, we have to make sure that they're enabled in our global settings. Now, this is a 3-workshop series. And so if you were at the first one, which was mostly about settings, then you have seen this before. But just in case, I'm going to show you how to turn these features on so that you have them whenever you want to use them. So I'm going to go to Zoom. And so I am just on zoom.us. You might sign in through your school. You might come directly to Zoom. Either way, however you get here, this is what it's going to look like. These are your Zoom global settings. These are the settings that are kind of in effect for your entire account. You can adjust them when you're scheduling a meeting and then whenever you're in a meeting. But as far as like the defaults go, this is where you find those. So when you come to zoom.us, I like to call it Big Zoom versus my school Zoom. I kind of say little, not really little Zoom. I say Penn State Zoom and then Big Zoom, meaning Big Zoom, the company. When you come to Big Zoom, you usually land on the Meetings tab. And so you'll see on the Meetings tab, my upcoming meetings are showing. I can click over here to schedule a meeting. If I wanted to edit a meeting, I just hover over it. I can start it, I can edit it, I can delete it, etc. I want to go to my settings. And so I'm going to go over here on my left-hand navigation. I'm just going to go down to settings, just 4 little spaces down there. I'm going to click that. And we just want to make sure that we have the reactions and the polls and those nonverbal icons turned on so that we can use them if we want to. The shortcut to all of these settings, you can scroll down through the entire list. Just scroll down, scroll down, scroll down. The entire list is very long though. So if you want to kind of get a shortcut to go down there, I'm going to go to In Meeting Basic. It's just going to take me, most of the way down. So I'll just click that. And so these are all the settings that are kind of for things that are in my meeting. Here is where I can turn on chat or private chat and so forth. We're not going to go over all these settings. I just want to make sure that you have the ones that we're going to look at today. So I'm just going to scroll down kind of slowly here. And first thing I want to do is right here, I want to make sure that meeting polls is on. So I just turn that on. If it were off, it would sort of be grayed out like that. I want it turned on though. And then also webinar polls. Now, meetings and webinars are very similar, but you can use them for different things. While I'm here, I'm just turning both of them on. Just because the setting is turned on does not mean that you have to use it. So there's no harm in turning it on and then not creating a poll. So I would opt to turn it on. So that's for polls and then, or meeting polls and then webinar polls. I'm going to keep scrolling down here till I find those feedback icons. There we are, right under remote control there. Hold on. We have nonverbal feedback. So I'm going to make sure that's turned on. And then below that is meeting reactions. I'm going to make sure that that is turned on as well. So those are the ones we're going to deal with today. So those are the ones I wanted to make sure that you knew where they were and how to turn them on and so forth. Once those are turned on, they will be available to use in your meetings. It doesn't mean you have to use them. It just means they're there. So you can think about it like that. I am going to go to my Zoom window just so I can show you what those reactions look like. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this over. And actually, I'm just going to make it full screen. Okay, so there it is, full screen is my Zoom window there. It used to be that I said that the nonverbal feedback icons would show on your chat panel, no, on your participant panel. So let me pull my participant panel over. And so the participant panel just lists all the participants. I have more functions because I'm the host, and so I can see whose camera's on and off and things like that. If I hover over a name, I have some options. I could chat, start a video, different things like that. When the nonverbal feedback icons are in the participant panel, they're at the very bottom right here. And they would have, like I said, a raised hand, a green check, a red X, and so forth. Zoom has moved them. Like I said, I'm going to leave these right here. I'm just going to show you. Now they're on the reactions button down here. So I'm going to go ahead and click reactions. And so the top row are the reactions that we've always had. We have a clapping emoji. We have a thumbs up. We have a laugh until you cry, like a surprise, a heart, and then a party popper. The nonverbal feedback icons that used to be on the participants panel, we have a yes, a no, a go slower, a go faster, and then we have a raised hand. Now, when those nonverbal feedback icon, that last row and then the raised hand, when they were on the participants panel, they would stay on until the participant clicked it again to turn it off, or until I would click as a host, clear all. When they made the move, they took away that functionality. But lots of people complained and said, hey, we need this functionality. And so they are putting that back. It should be back by the end of the month. The way it works right now is they only last, they say between 5 and 10 seconds. I think it's closer to 5, but you get the idea. But what I would like you to do, if you could, just choose any icon. I don't care which one it is. Just go ahead and click any of the icons for me. And then you'll see as people choose their icons, they show up on their profile pictures. But I also get this list down here. Right now I have 12 thumbs up, 2 hearts, 3 party poppers, and so forth. Now, after 5 seconds, those start dropping off again. But by the end of the month, they're going to stay like they always did. And so then what we can do, we can use it for things like, if you want to see problem 5 next, give me a green check. If you want to move on to the next section, give me a red X. And so people could kind of vote informally that way. It would kind of help me to decide or to know what my students were really interested in. You know, should we move on and I can do the example later, or do they need me to stay here and go from there? So that kind of thing. So for right now, again, they don't stay. They only stay about 5 seconds. But that functionality is coming back. When that functionality does come back, we're going to have right here, like there'll be all the icons right here. We'll have that clear all icon over here. And so then whenever you ask the question, you're kind of satisfied, okay, I know what everybody wants. I can click clear all and it zeroes all those out or kind of deletes them or whatever you want to call it. Now, raised hand works a little bit differently. Raised hand, when somebody raises their hand, they go to the top of the list. Like right now, Karen has her hand raised, which I'm glad. She goes to the top of the list. And so she'll stay there until either she lowers her hand or I lower her hand. As an instructor, if she has a meeting, now look, and here's somebody in the waiting room. I want to show you this too while we have. So somebody's here in the waiting room. I want to show you what the waiting room looks like. If I hover over the name, I can click admit right there. If there's several people in the waiting room, I will have another button up here that says admit all, but I'm just going to admit this person. And you'll see it says joining. And then after that person joins, they'll kind of go out of the waiting room and then they'll be down in the list. I just wanted to show you that on the fly because it popped up. Okay, so Karen has her hand up. Now, Karen, do you have a question or is that just the icon that you chose? Okay, so Karen says she doesn't have a question. So pretend I answer Karen's question, I'm good to go. I'm gonna go ahead and lower Karen's hand and then Karen will just pop down to right where she was before. Now, raise some hands for me. I won't call on you or anything, but just a couple people raise your hands. What I love about the hand raising is whoever raises first is at the top of the list. So that's a way for me to keep in order who asked a question, which is really good because sometimes that's hard enough in a regular classroom, let alone in an online classroom. So people can raise their hand. I can take the question, I can lower the hand, pops up, the next one goes up like that. And so that's one way. If you ever need to keep people in order for something, that's how to do it with the raised hand, because that's the only one that'll stay in a specific order. So keep that in mind. And then that way you don't have to like trust yourself to like see who raised their hand first and that kind of thing. All right, so that is how those nonverbal feedback icons work. Oh, Dana, I'm sorry, I missed your comment about not having yes and no. Okay, so this is good because we can do a little investigating here. So Dana, you have the reactions button, but it doesn't say yes or no or go slower or go faster. Okay, so it says they were showing, but now they're not showing. Let me try something. See if this makes them reappear. Let me clear out these hands. This shouldn't make a difference. I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to go ahead and clear out these hands. Did that change anything? Okay, now do you guys have your participants panel open? So also across the bottom of your Zoom window, you'll have a participants panel. Go ahead and click your participants panel and see if those icons are appearing at the bottom of your participants panel. Okay, perfect. Okay, so that's the other thing. So whenever you're in Zoom or working with Zoom, Zoom is making updates all the time. One of the reasons is because they're always improving things as a result of COVID and everything went crazy and they had to plug all these security holes and stuff like this, just because the whole world started using Zoom. So now they have lots and lots of versions of Zoom, because unless you update, you're on an older version. Usually what happens is the features will kind of go by whatever the host has. So if I have an updated version and mine are under the reactions button, then all of yours will be as well. For whatever reason, it's not like that for the participant panel, for the icons in the participant panel. So what you can do for that is keep in mind that you might have to tell your students both places. Okay, that's one thing you can do. Or the other thing is just, well, there's no other thing. You could ask them to update. Sometimes people do, and sometimes they don't, and so you get that idea. I'm not sure if they don't show up on a Chromebook. I know there are some differences with a Chromebook, but I didn't know that reactions was one of the things that there was an issue with. Catch my email address at the end and feel free to email me and we can check that out together. It's something I would like to know. So we'll find out about that. Chromebook does have some differences with, well, we use Canvas. They have some Canvas differences too. There are some differences with different, pieces of software and things like that with Chromebook. So keep on the lookout for those too. All right, so that's how you use those participant icons. You can use them for kind of really cool things when they're working and they stay up like they're supposed to. Like I said, you can help use them to change, choose the next problem, or to decide, what kind of activity they want to do next, or kind of things like that. So just things to keep in mind. I got a question about the waiting room. Perfect. Okay, so Kelly says she found the waiting room distracting, so she turned it off after she began lecturing. You can totally do that. So let me just show you that while we're here. One button that you want to know about, and I tell every session I do, I talk about the security button. So at the bottom of your Zoom window, you'll have a security button. Now, this is when you're hosting. You won't now because you're not a host. That kind of localizes all of the kind of options you need to keep your meeting from having an issue. Let's put it that way. You can lock the meeting. So if somebody, after all your students are in, if you want to lock it, you can do that so nobody else can get in. I probably wouldn't lock it for just a regular class type meeting. I would probably leave the waiting room on for that. But if it were something like a discipline thing or a meeting with parents, or any kind of meeting where it was like, confidentiality was really important, you could use the lock meeting function. The trick to that is you want to make sure that everybody you want in the meeting is in the meeting before you lock it, because if you don't and somebody tries to get in, you won't know it. You're not notified at all that somebody is trying to get in. So something to think about there. As far as the waiting room, depending on how your school is set up, you should be able to turn the waiting room on or off. And so that's what lots of people do. They keep the waiting room on while they're kind of getting set up and things like that. But then after they start lecturing, so they don't have to worry about, kind of keeping track of it, they just turn it off. And then after that point, then everybody can come in. So you can do that as well. Then there's options for what you'll let your students do as far as chat and renaming and videos and things like that. If there ever is an issue and you need to get rid of a participant for some reason, if they turn on their mic and they say things they're not supposed to or whatever, you can click remove and then choose a participant to kick right out of the room. You can also do suspend participant activities. And what this one does is it stops everything for everybody until you find the person that you want to kick out, or if you want to call it that, or report. And then after you've done that, you can go ahead and you can unclick, sorry, let me go back here. You can unclick the suspend participant activities and it'll kind of let things go back to normal. It's just a way to kind of stop everything to let you figure out what you want to do, and then you can start it again. When we first started teaching remotely, some of our professors, if they had an incident like that, they would literally just stop the Zoom meeting. They couldn't let it go if somebody was sharing something inappropriate or something like that, but that option didn't exist at that time. So just make sure you know that's there. If there's ever an issue or something's being shared that shouldn't, or just anything goes wrong like that, remember that you can go that security button, and then you can click suspend participant activities, and it just puts everything on hold while you kind of figure out what you need to do. So yeah. Um, so that's how, yes, you can turn off the waiting room. That was a really long answer to that short question. Yes, you can turn off the waiting rooms. If we stop chats, does that mean the students can't chat to each other? Great question. So as far as chat goes, here I'm pulling over my chat window. And so one of the things you can do at the bottom of your chat window is, like, here is who I'm going to message. Here is a file icon. Then I have these 3 dots. I can click right here and I can choose who the participants can chat with. And so if I want them to chat, but not privately, so I want them to chat with me and everybody, but I don't want them like talking like without anybody being able to see, I can just choose everybody publicly instead. If I don't even want that, maybe I'm giving a quiz or a test and I don't want them to be able to talk to each other while that's going on, I could choose host only. And then that way they could ask me questions if they had them, but they wouldn't be able to ask each other for answers and things. Or if I want to just say no one, I can do that. If I say no one, I can still chat, but they can't chat with me or anyone. So I probably wouldn't use no one. I probably, if I wanted to cut the chat down, I probably would say host only, because I still would want them to be able to tell me something that I might need to know. So yeah, so that's how you do that about turning off the chat. Another quick thing about chat is there's always a question about, can people see my private chats? Nobody can see your private chats except you and the person on the other end of your private chat. You can only see private chats that you're in, whether you are the instructor or the student or whoever. Nowhere, well, I'm probably somewhere in Zoom, but nowhere as a host do I have access to private chats. So I don't want you to worry or think like, I just always get that question. Somebody thinks, feels like somebody can go back and get their private chats. They're not kept anywhere. So you don't, something to keep in mind. You don't have to worry about that. Okay, so that was like the nonverbal feedback icons and everything like that. We're going to talk about polling next. Let's start polling. Let me just get a clean slide here so we can talk about polling easy. All right, let me get rid of that. There we go. Okay. I am going to host a, not host, I'm going to launch a poll for you guys. Okay. Now I'm just going to show you how I do this. So I am going to bring this back over here. I'm going to go, you can see I don't have a poll button down here. And so sometimes when that happens, we're like, oh no, I don't have my polls. Where are they? I didn't have them. Zoom does us a favor whenever we have a small window and moves things under the more button. So if I click more, I have polls right there. So I'm going to go ahead and click polls, and that'll bring up my poll window. Now, one thing you can do, you can have a generic poll. So you have to create polls ahead of time. And every once in a while, I forget to create a poll, right? And so I can have a generic poll kind of on the ready if I want to. And then I could ask the question in my PowerPoints or just even out loud, and then have students choose A, B, C. You don't see my, okay, hold on. Okay, how about now? Sorry about that, Karen. Thank you for letting me know. Can you see it now? Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, so I could do like this and just have, them choose whatever they wanted to. So I'm going to start right here. Actually, I won't launch this one because we have a couple others. Okay, so this way I could have the question on my PowerPoint slide, or I could post it in chat, anywhere I wanted to share it. And then they could just choose A, B, C, D, E and go from there. That way, I wouldn't have to make a million different polls with a million different questions. So that's one way that you could do it. All right, so let's move past that. Another way you can do it, you can ask more than one question at a time. It's Well, you might not see it. You probably don't see it, Tara, right now. It's at the bottom of your Zoom window. You probably don't see it right now because you're not the host and I haven't launched a poll yet. You'll probably see it in just a minute. My second poll here, this one I am going to show you guys, or actually launch it. So I'm going to click this second poll I have. You can do more than one question at once. So let me just make this a little bigger to show you here. So I have one question and then I have another question down below. So I want you guys to do both questions. In the first question, I want you to tell me what Zoom features you have already used with your students. And so I want you to choose all the ones that you've used. And then if you've used any others that you can think of, go ahead and click other and then just type those in chat. Then the second question, it's the same options again, but this time I'd like you to choose the one that you'd most like to learn more about. Okay, so here's what happens. When I want to launch a poll, I just click this blue button at the bottom that says launch polling. When I do that, the poll should pop up on your side. Now, before you can vote now if you want to, but I just want to show you a couple things on what it looks like on my side. So up at the top, I have a timer. Right here, I have a thing that tells me how many students have voted. Then I have the one question, and I have the other question, and then I have an end poll. As the people vote, you can see those blue lines go up and down based on what the most popular choice is and things like that. I can watch the time. If I were using this for attendance, I might only want to leave it open for maybe 2 minutes. That's, if they've been away for 2 minutes, then I don't, they're not maybe paying attention like they should. So you get the idea. So go ahead, you're going to make 2 choices, and then at the bottom, there will be a submit button. And you can see that. I'm going to give you another 5 seconds or so, and then I'm going to say end poll. All right, I'm going to end it right here. I know some of you haven't voted. I'm sorry about that. So again, what I see on the instructor side is I see most people have done screen sharing, but there's lots of other options. So lots of people have tried lots of things. As far as other goes, we have them turn on their camera and give a thumbs up. That's a great thing to do, right? It's kind of fun for like you to see all the thumbs up, and it's kind of neat, I don't know. It's just one of those things. I love it. And so down here, what people want to learn more about, we have polling is the most, and then go from there. So you get the idea down there. I know, I love to see. That's what I miss from the face-to-face classroom is their faces and seeing the question marks on their head. It's so easy when you're face-to-face to know if somebody has a question because it's right there on their forehead. Okay, now I can share this with my students. All I'm going to do is say share results. You see it right now because you're seeing it on my screen. But when I click share results, you'll see it on your screen. And so it should pop up on your side. When I'm sharing, it shows the most popular or whatever. When we've talked about it and we're done sharing, I can click stop share results. And when I do that, it should disappear from your side. So let me do that. And then I always say, if that didn't disappear, you can drag it on the screen or turn it off or whatever, just to kind of give them an option. From here, I could relaunch that poll if I wanted to get more votes, or I could just close out of it and say, okay, I'm done with polling for now. That would work. Or I actually have a third question here. I actually created just an attendance poll. Now, if you don't students to know that you're like asking them random questions because you're trying to see if they're paying attention or not. I mean, okay, so first of all, I think it's completely okay to expect them to be there during your whole class. So if I want to take attendance 5 times, I think that's okay. I'm not trying to catch anybody. I'm trying to reward the people who are there and doing what they're supposed to do and kind of incentivize the ones who might be kind of walking away or whatever. So anyway, and so you could just say, hey, this is an attendance poll. Are you here? Yes. You could do that. Or I just made it into a math question. What is your preferred method of solving quadratic equations? And then put the list down there. I threw in a funny one. What is a quadratic equation? I'm sure some people will choose that too, and that's okay, right? They can do that. This is an attendance poll for me. It's not really, there's no wrong answer here, you know? So anyway, you could do it that way. Once you do your poll and you want to see the results, you can go back to zoom.us, your Zoom account, and download the results. I'm going to go ahead and show you what those results look like. And then we're going to go ahead and show you how to create a poll and things like that. But since we're already talking about results, I'm going to show you that. Now, I already have a results pulled up because these results I won't be able to get to yet. So I'm just going to go back to my Zoom window. There we are right here. And the way to find results, let me pull this over to the side. There we go. I'm going to go back up to the top of my screen, my window here, and I'm going to choose. Now, mine might look a little bit different than yours. You should have a reports tab right here. Mine looks a little different because I have a Zoom room. I have to go account management and then reports. But the reports link will be on your left-hand side there. So I'm going to click reports. Once I get into reports, I can do usage. And so if I want to do usage, the usage will tell me all of the people that were at my meeting. But that doesn't tell me if they turned the meeting on and then walked away and had lunch, right? So take that with a grain of salt. I also have meeting reports, I have registration reports, and I have poll reports. And then I have reports for webinars as well. I'm going to click on meeting reports. When you do that, remember I said this was registration reports and poll reports. Don't forget to click the poll report, because right now I'm on registration reports. And if I didn't have people register, it'll say that it couldn't be created. And you'll be like, wait, I know I gave a poll. Just to make sure you click poll reports. And so it'll give me my different meetings. I can click generate from there. I'm going to go ahead and click generate. It'll ask me what type and go from there. I've already downloaded a poll report for you to see though. It's right here. So I'm going to double click this just to show you what that looks like. And let me do this. There we go. And so this is what your poll report looks like. Let me make these a little bit bigger. Okay, there we go. All right. So I have when the poll was generated. So this was at not whatever time, doesn't matter. I have the topic of the meeting. This was an Excel data management class. This is the meeting ID. This is when it started. This is how long it lasts. And then over here on the side, now you saw me, I deleted these because I didn't want to show student names, but I had all the student names and all the student emails here. And then in this first column, the 1 through 28, that was just how many people voted. Ah, good one. So Tino says, remember, you only have 30 days to download reports. I think that varies by school, but yeah, that's good. I usually use them for things that I answer right. You know what? That's a really good, I'm glad you said that. I never even think about that. And that's a good thing for me to mention. I appreciate that, Tino. Very good. Okay, so here are the participants. Here are their names, email addresses. This is when they did the poll. This is what the question was. This is what their answer was, and so forth. If you know how to use Excel, I'm sorry, this was the question, this was their answer, and so forth. If you know how to use Excel, you can sort, you can do all kinds of things with this, and so forth. This poll had multiple questions at the same time, so it's a little more complicated. If you did an attendance poll, for example, it would literally be a name, an email, and then it would just be a yes, and then only the ones who were there would show up. So it would be easy to give those people credit because they participated in the poll. So on the roadmap for Zoom is a connection between polls and the gradebook. And so at some point coming in the future, they're going to allow us to be able to use a poll as maybe even a quiz or something like that without us having to do it manually. It's just on the roadmap. There's no date, but it's definitely coming. So that's something to think about too. Yeah, I see what you're saying, Kelly. Yeah. So Kelly said registration reports. Does that only work if you require registration? Yes. So you have to require registration. You can customize the information you want to gather, whether it's name, email address, whatever you want to gather, and then that can be a demo. I mean, you can make that into a report as well. Because what you can do with that information, you can download that, grab the email addresses, and then because those people registered, those are the people that you can share your link with, for example. Yeah, it could be gradebook. We are a Canvas school, so it's coming for Canvas, but once they make that, they put it in the learning tool, it'll work in any of they all do the, make sure that everything's compatible with everything, so. It might have been Top Hat. I'm not sure if it was Top Hat that you're talking about that pulled the poll right into a grade book. No, not Top Hat. Okay, so anyway, so that's how you pull a poll report after the fact. Let's look at how you create polls, just so you know kind of how to do that too. I'm just going to go ahead and close out of here. And I am going to go to my meetings tab. And so I have some different Hawks demos here. I'll use the one from, actually, I'll make a new one. And this month is flying by already. There we go. And I'm not going to customize anything or anything. I'm just going to say save. There we go. You have to create the meeting first and then add the polls. Okay, so I've created that meeting really quickly. I didn't even choose any settings. All I literally did was just say, gave it a title. That was it. When your meeting is created, you scroll down to the bottom, and at the very bottom, you'll see you have not created any poll yet. And so I can go right over here and click add. So I'm going to click add. And then I get this pop-up window and I can add right from there. Poll reports will work even if you don't have registration. So you can have a poll in any meeting where you have polls turned on. They don't have to register or anything like that. Yep. You definitely want to put a title on the poll. If you don't put a title, it'll just say polling 1, polling 2, polling 3, and you might not know which one is which. And then whenever you go to launch it, you'll have to open up each one to find out which is the one you want to launch. So I always give it a little name up there. So I'll call this one attendance. And maybe I'll even give it a date. So this is attendance for my, I think that's Friday, for my, oops, I said 20. I think that's the first time I've done that. You can still add polls if they're already scheduled. As long as you're the owner of the meeting, you can add polls. And I'm 90% sure you're the owner of the meeting. You can check with a learning designer or whoever it is that kind of creates those meetings automatically. But I would find it hard to believe that you wouldn't have that tool available. It's just one of the basics that they allow. So definitely ask about that. I can click here if I want to make it anonymous, but if it's attendance, I don't want to make it anonymous. So I'm going to say, leave it the way it is. That's the default, is it's not anonymous. If I would want to ask a question that I would want it to be anonymous, then I could check that and get some, feedback that way. So I'm going to say, are you here? Here and hanging on my every word. There we go. And I want this to be a single answer, right? They're either here or they're not here. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that. And I'm going to say yes. And I'm going to say no. Now, theoretically, if they're not here, they're not going to say no. But if it's an attendance poll, again, all I care about is that I get an answer and they participate. I don't really care what they say. And I'll say, of course. And then I just scroll down to the bottom. Now, remember the one that I asked you that had 2 questions at once? If I wanted to add another question at the same time, I would click add a question. If it's an attendance poll, I probably don't want to do that, right? I probably just want to leave it, just one question, are you here or not? And then that's it. And then I click save. And then there's my poll. And then I could create another poll if I wanted to. Now, you can create up to 25 polls with up to 10 questions each. So if you did want to, you could do 250 questions in the same Zoom meeting. So that's a little crazy, but you could definitely do it. You might want to have, like, I wouldn't call I would not personally do a high stakes quiz or anything like that. Maybe you would do, the kind of quiz at the end of the week that was like, kind of check in and see how you're doing because we're having a test on Monday. So you could do a little quiz that way to just kind of bring up all the topics and things, and then go over that in class to kind of give them feedback or make sure they remember stuff or whatever. So you could use lots of different things. And there's other tools for polling too. We're just showing you one here in Zoom. Great question. So I'm going to go add another poll. So again, I'm always going to add a title so it's easy for me to identify which one it is. You can check anonymous or not. This one, I'm going to do multiple select. And so when I have a list and I want them to choose as, all that apply, instead of doing single choice, I'm going to do multiple choice. And then that way they can do as many choices as they want to. If you're going to make a mistake when you're creating a poll, 9 times out of 10, that's what it is. You'll leave it on single choice when you meant to have multiple choice. So just be careful with that. I did that in a big meeting. It was a little embarrassing, but it was okay. So anyway, and you can have up to 10 answers also. So you can have up to 10 answers with up to with up to 10 questions with up to 25 polls. So that's a lot. So that's it. So I'm just going to close out of this one. I'm not going to save this one. I'm just going to click cancel down here. When you have multiple polls, you can do it right here. If you do want to come back and kind of check them out or whatever, you can edit it to, update it or whatever. I always go in my room and test them before my students get there or whatever, just to make sure I didn't click the wrong button. Yes, they do, Rusty. They do show up all at one time. It's like that poll I did where you had to scroll down, like the first question, then you scroll down to the second question, you scroll down to the third question. So if you do multiple questions at once, it's all on the same sort of window, and you can just scroll down through it. And I'm just looking to see if I missed any questions. Okay, I think I got it. All right. Okay, any more questions right now about polls? Oh yeah, great question. Okay, so I am going to go, there we go. Okay, so I'm at Big Zoom now. That's where I recreated it. I want to make sure it's okay now. So to get to the polls and actually show them to your students, you're going to go on your Zoom window. So here I am back here at my Zoom window. And then across the bottom, you're going to find your polls icon. If you don't, now you might not have it because, here, let me open a poll. So I actually do have a poll open. You can tell me whether you have the poll icon or not. You might not have the poll icon because you're not the host or co-host. But across the bottom, you'll find your poll icon. Right here is the more button. If you don't find your poll icon anywhere else, click more. And then you'll see I have polls right there. So I'm going to click poll. And then sure enough, there's my poll. I can use my drop down to choose a different one, and then I can launch that and go from there. Yep, Joan, you're exactly right. So Joan says if you create a poll in a meeting and then save that meeting as a template, you can use that poll in another meeting without having to start all over again. Absolutely. Another thing you can do, if you do have Zoom in your LMS, again, I told you guys we use Canvas. The Zoom tool in Canvas allows you to upload polls. So that way you can put them in a file and you can upload them, and it puts all those questions in for you at once, and you don't have to type them all out, which is another, nice thing. All right, what else? I don't know if I was faster today or you guys didn't ask questions, because I got done a little bit earlier than usual today. So any other questions? Okay, so you will have so if you don't launch a poll, you will still get a poll report, but it'll be blank. So let me show you that one. I can show you one like that on my Zoom. So I'm going to go here to again, mine's a little bit different place than yours. I'm going to go to account management and then reports. And so usage reports right here, and then meeting reports. Remember, I want meeting reports when I'm looking for poll report. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to make sure and choose poll reports right here. And then you can widen out this date range. For right now, it's only the past, like from yesterday to today. So I'm going to click on this date range, and I'm going to move this back a little bit. I'm going to go from November 1st, and then its default is a month. I'm going to go ahead and make this one further into, I guess it only lets me do it a month at a time. That's okay. All right, so I'm going to say done. So I'm pulling polls for the month of November here. So I'm going to click search. And then these are all the meetings that I had in November that had a poll in them. Okay. Now I'm just going to click any one of these. Yeah, I'm sorry. Oh my gosh, did I do it again? No, I didn't. I am sharing my screen. Okay, so sorry. Wait, I went through the steps you showed, download, or how are you showing us your Zoom screens? Oh yes, I am at zoom.us here. So this is, like I said, big Zoom. Yeah. Or are you asking me how I'm showing you my Zoom windows? Because that's a setting that I can show you. I'll come back to that part in a second. So anyway, so I'm going to pick any of my meetings. So right here, I have my personal meeting room. I'm going to click generate. And it lists all of the times that I used my personal meeting room right here. So this one says processing, but I'll download the other one from the other day for January 18th. I'm going to click that, and I have to save it. I'm going to open it, and it's empty. It tells me all the information, but as far as like who has filled it out, nobody. So if you don't have somebody take a poll, you'll still get a poll report if there's a poll in the meeting, but it won't have anything in it. So you have to make sure you choose the meeting that had the people that actually completed the poll report. I hope that helps. Okay, so there's that. Now, as far as Zoom screens, and so I am sharing a window. No, I'm sharing an entire monitor and not just my web browser or whatever. So let me pull this over. When you click share screen, so I'm going to click share screen right here. Can you guys see this white window, or can you not see that? It has screen 1, screen 2, screen 3. Can you guys see that or no? Okay, great. So I choose to share a whole desktop. So I'm sharing an entire screen. So this is the screen, this is a screen, this is a whiteboard, this is a mouse. If I scroll down and I only share, for example, if I only share my PowerPoint, what happens is if I drag something in front of that PowerPoint, you won't see it. You'll still only see the PowerPoint. If you have more than one monitor, I would go ahead and share a whole screen. If you just have one monitor, I probably wouldn't share a whole screen because you need to be able to like kind of move back and forth and things like that. So that's what it is. So I would choose my screen and then I would click share screen and go from there. And then that's why I can drag things to and from, and you guys are still able to see that. You can't import an old poll into a new meeting unless it is, and it's not really importing, but if you have the meeting in a spreadsheet or a CSV file, you could use the learning tool if you're using an LMS to upload that poll. Otherwise, you have to type it all in. That's not very fun, I know. That's why some people choose to use a generic poll. Instead of putting every question in there, they'll put the questions on their slides because the slides, they can move from meeting to meeting and use it over and over again. But then the only poll they have to create is the generic poll that says A, B, C, D, E, or however many. Yeah, and so I got a question about blurry. Sometimes whenever people are sharing something, it looks blurry. Sometimes when you share in Zoom, it takes a second for Zoom to kind of get to the right resolution. And so it might be that it was blurry for just a few seconds or a few minutes whenever you started screen sharing, but then it got better over time. That's the only thing that I can think of. I haven't really, I know that that's how they do it with videos. Um, for example, when you're watching a YouTube video, what happens is video or YouTube will start the video in like the lowest resolution that they have. And then based on your computer, they will like up it a notch, make it look a little better until it's as good as your view or your computer, whatever you want to call it, can get. So that sometimes happens. It will save separately more than once. So if you launch a poll and then you go, then you're like, okay, I'm done. And then you relaunch it later, it will have those launches separately. If nothing else, you can separate them by time because they'll all have their timestamp on there. So you'll know when one stopped and the other one started. So absolutely. Oh my gosh, hybrid classes, whenever you have some people in person and some people remote, it's hard. It is hard. But I got to tell you, the tricky thing is, so when you're in person with some of your students and the rest of them are out there, the tricky part is sometimes you concentrate on the in-person students too much. And so then somebody will say, hey, don't forget about the remote students. Then you end up concentrating on the remote students too much. And so it's kind of this back and forth. What I say is, even though the in-person students are in person, if it's possible, I would still have them to sign into Zoom and still interact the same way. Not that they can't, say things out loud and you'll look at their face and things like that, but still interact the same way that the remote students are. That makes a really big difference. So I know it's hard, but that's what we recommend. We have all of our students sign on to Zoom, whether they're in person or not in person. And like I said, sometimes people can't do that, but they can. Feedback in how, Kelly? Great. Oh, see, great question. See, you guys are good. Okay, so whenever you're in person with a group and then the rest of the group is out there, hopefully you have a sound system in the room. Theoretically, you do because you're in a classroom and you're broadcasting and whatever like you normally would. Even though the students in the room are signed on to the Zoom meeting, they should turn off their microphones and speakers. And all sound should go in and out through that system microphone that's set up for the whole classroom. Yeah, that is the trick. If there's ever an echo, have everybody mute and that'll take care of it. But that's what to do. They sign into the Zoom meeting, but they use the sound from the classroom and they use the microphone from the classroom, not from their own computer. Yep. All right, what else? All right, we're almost at time. I'm going to actually show you guys a slide. I am revamping these trainings, adding new stuff and getting rid of stuff that you don't want to see, which most people don't want me to get rid of anything, but that's okay. I have a little survey. It's a 1-question survey. And then after that is some demographic information like your name and your email address and stuff like that. You do not have to share that with me. All I care about, I mean, if you want to, that's good. All I care about is the question says, what is the thing that you want? I forget how it's even worded, but the point is, tell me what you want to know about Zoom. What is your most important question about Zoom? And how can I help you with that? It's just leahrosenberry.com. It will kick you over to a survey. It's just easier to remember this link. So all one word, leahrosenberry.com. It'll kick you over to that survey for 1 question about Zoom and what you want to learn more about or what you think the biggest sticking point is. And then after that, like I said, there's a name and a email address, but you don't have to share those. I don't care. I just want your feedback about Zoom. And then, so that link is in the chat. No, it isn't. I didn't hit enter yet. That link is in the chat. And then my email address is leah@psu.edu or leah.rosenberry@gmail.com. And then you can also, and Allison will tell us this, you can also contact Hawks and they'll forward messages to me. If you have any questions, I can follow up, and I really will follow up. Just let me know. And I'll go back to that and I'll hand it over to you, Allison. Thank you. You're muted, Allison.
Thank you. I was gonna say, as always, I feel like I learned a ton from you. Show it, obviously. But thank you so much for meeting with us today. And thank you all for attending. If you have any questions, the contact information for Professor Rosenberry is in the chat. But you can also direct those questions to marketing@hawkslearning.com, and we can send those directly to her as well, or answer any questions that you might have for us. As well as that, we'll be emailing you the link to this recording soon once it's ready to go. And you can view those as well as past webinars that we've held with Professor Rosenberry, as well as other informants on our blog at blog.hawkslearning.com. And with that being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day and stay safe, everybody.
Take care, everybody. Thanks for coming.